Hey everyone, it's Christina D, aka GotDragon82, and welcome to the Dork Den, which is what we're calling it now because I refer to it as that in my TikTok every now and then, and we're kind of connecting the two. So this is the start of what I'm gonna call GothTigger92 2.0, which is essentially phase 2 for this channel because we're rebooting it. It's a very slow process, as you may know. Videos have been disappearing, as per my choice. So don't worry, that's all me. And this is going to be the first episode of a series that I want to do on here called Designing the Future, where I basically use my creative skills that are typically reserved for my art channel shorter than the easel. But we're using it here to sort of design things that could possibly exist and hopefully inspire you guys to maybe make things that could exist, that can help the world out there and the world around us. So we're starting with something that I actually drew up a while ago, but we're going to be redesigning that and make it a bit more up to date, let's say. So yeah, let's get to it. Let's hope this takes off because I really wanted to, and I think this is going to be a fun series that will hopefully inspire a lot of people to make things and create things and do things that could possibly help the world around us and the environment, even if it's just small, like, minute things that you wouldn't normally think of, but could make a big difference in the long run. So let's get to it. Okay, so, as you can see, new setup. Got the picture going, got my tablet, got my mic. Let's get to it. As I was saying, back in high school, I created something during a bio class that I like to consider sort of like a school of fish, but for a city. And like, it was sort of like a flying filter, essentially. A flying air filter that was sort of like angelfish shaped almost. So almost football shaped, something like that. With like propeller back here. And like two of like those giant like weird like circular filters where it's like air goes in, comes out clean, that kind of filter. So it was gonna be like two of those like that, and then maybe like some on the sides would be sort of like filter, filter, the machine here, then filter, filter here, or like over here be like more propellers. So then it's just like, you get the gist. It's a flying filter, and I imagined it for like cities and areas that had like air quality issues and like smog issues. Like, it wouldn't be like one giant one. It would be multiple of them flying throughout these areas, like schools of fish, but within the city limits, not like outside in like big like airspace where commercial aircraft fly. I mean, like, these would be like probably roughly not quite football size, but definitely bigger, but it would be multiple of these flying in groups throughout cities, filtering the air, as air filters do. So let's take this and let's update it for modern technology. So let's change the color a bit for the pencil. Now nowadays we have drones, which are very similar to that, but not necessarily the same. But similar concept, a flying machine that's small enough to fly basically anywhere and resist most, I guess, air systems, air frequencies. I am not skill-based in scientific terms. I was always the art kid, obviously. They're not necessarily built for, I mean, they are built to resist air currents. There you go, air currents. That's what I was going for. I do still like that football shape because that is very aerodynamic. You see, I'm remembering how to word again. But let's take this a step further. Keep that shape, but then get like your typical like drone fans. I want it to be, actually no, maybe Make that thinner. Then let's bring these in. Because I don't want it taking up too much space, but I also want like something surrounding them, because I don't like drones because I don't like the fact that most of them have open propellers, or the propellers are very easy to access, and I honestly, personally fear for my life when it comes to them, because I am paranoid that one's gonna come close enough and just like nick me or something. I don't like the fact that they're easy to access. It's like putting a finger into a fan. It's not good. And I honestly don't trust people that fly them sometimes, because sometimes people get a little crazy with them. So, yeah, we want something that's aerodynamic, and maybe get like some like mesh cages or something so the air flows through it. But there's still something to protect anyone from accidentally getting hit by one of these without them actually catching the propellers and hurting themselves. And I do still like the idea of it having the filter on top and on the bottom. That way it balances it out. But now the question is, how would these work realistically? Because honestly, I do still like this idea of the propeller being in the front, being on the sides, and on the back. Because I do initially like that sort of almost like angelfish silhouette, where if you have multiple of these, which is the initial plan, it looks like a school of fish, and it's more appealing to the eye rather than a bunch of really loud drones, because those things aren't exactly silent when you really think about it. Especially the smaller they get. So let's roll with that, actually, because I'm digging that more. And let's see, so let's go with, again, I still like the initial football shape, which is definitely more aerodynamic. It has more of a nice silhouette to it. Because again, I'm more of the art person. I care more about the aesthetics of some of these things. And let's maybe make this sort of curve into it. That way it's not as harsh of a little change into the filters. Now, I'm not quite sure how these filters would work necessarily, because I always thought those filters that were just literally the holes and literally just look like giant bubble wands to me. I always found this fascinating because there is no like physical filter in them that needs to necessarily be replaced. So I always liked that concept of these sort of floating bubble wands just flying. And again, let's get the propellers on this side and on this side, and again with that nice little curve going into these so it's not as harsh. And again, there would be like some sort of like mesh to protect it, because again, I get paranoid about that stuff. I'm a worst case scenario thinker. So you want people to be safe if they ever do accidentally bump into one of these, or say someone is an idiot and decides to try and take one of these down while it's flying. Because you know there's gonna be that person. I genuinely think these would be really cool. But let's maybe shrink that, because I also don't want it to be like toppling over from it being too top heavy. So I'd want to shrink those two. Yep. Let's deselect that for now. Take a quick look at it. Unless maybe I can make it like 3. You know, like 3 of these up here. Maybe 2 up here, 1 down here. Nix this one. Actually, you know what? Maybe not. I don't know. That one just looks like a face. A very angry face. And it's like, ooh, I don't like what you're doing. The little pointy nose. Silly things aside, though, I genuinely sort of like where this is going. I do kind of like the idea of this. It does have a very sort of futuristic vibe to me, the more sleek you make it. So maybe if we make... You know, let's maybe we bring these up. Actually, that might work better. Bring these up. That way, that's still there. Let's see, let's also make sure that's relatively even. Yeah, I like that. So then bring those up, so then let's put that. I'm trying to think what I want that being rather steep or let's keep the initial football shape to it. Make it a bit diamond because it'll be curving into this. And curving into these top filters. Now again, I have no clue how those filters work. So I don't know if you could make them en masse for something like this. Or even be able to make some of that work for it to initially house enough components to fly something like this. But my theory here is that with the two propellers on the side and then the one in the back creating enough current, it'll be enough to keep it going forward. Unless maybe if we tilt these a bit, like make them a bit more angled so it is kinda still drone-like. So then you got it. Like, I'm not even necessarily sure how drones fly. Like, I'm not completely sure about how that technology works. Again, I'm an art nerd. Science and technology fascinates me, but I have no skill in that field. Let's theoretically say, if we angled these so it looks more like a pissed off face that is constantly judging you, getting further and further away from that school of fish, perhaps this back propeller could work on the direction, or these could rotate. Ooh, these could rotate. These could rotate to sort of shift which way it goes. Because I'm imagining, again, groups of these flying through cities, like a good like mid-space between like the typical top of skyscrapers and where the street level is. So just like groups of these flying at like different levels to deal with, again, like different types of smog and air pollution. So it wouldn't just be like one big one of these, it'd be a bunch of little ones that are programmed to go through certain routes throughout these areas that would somehow filter the air. So what if these like side propellers rotate along with this to try and... Ooh, actually we could add little fins maybe. Little rotating fins. Ooh, I like that. I like that idea. Let's add rotating fins. It's probably the worst place to put them. But you get where I'm going. Actually, you know what? Maybe let's put those on the bottom. Yeah. Like a rudder. Like a rudder. Yeah. You get where I'm going with this, sort of, hopefully. I would assume they'd have some sort of, like, solar power to them, or some sort of, maybe light-based, if we're just dealing with, like, basic air pollution. Some sort of rechargeable battery that is very, very just appropriate for the environment it's in. But I think we're onto something. I think you're onto something. Okay, so take this onto a new layer, and again, I'm really liking the idea of this. So let's maybe try to make a bit more of a 3/4 view, maybe? Sorta, kinda. It's a view. Let's be going up. Actually, let's have that angle go up into that, so then that curves into those. Yeah, that'll curve into that. And that can rotate there. And let's have that be where the propellers are, and that can rotate. We'll have the mesh coverings because I am paranoid worst case scenario thinker. So I kind of like the idea of this, instead of being like away from that angle to that, just working into that. That way it's still a bit more aerodynamic than just having a random just like edge there. So we want that sort of working into that. Kind of like scooping into it. Like a mini airship. Look, it's a little spaceship. It's an alien. It's a little UFO. And so then that will swoop into that, which will be the bottom one. Now I think I might keep the bottom filter a lot smaller than... Yeah, I'm gonna keep the bottom filter smaller than the top filter. I like that. Maybe an artist, but perspective is still something I'm working on, so don't at me on that, because I at myself on it all the time. And I'm working on it. And then we will want the top filter being roughly more the size of the body of this thing. Unless we make these longer. We could do that. We can make these bigger. Make them harder, better, faster, stronger. Don't copyright strike me on that, because I just can't help myself sometimes. But we can make those longer. So those propellers are bigger. Can make that a bit rounded. Again, trying to make this relatively as aerodynamic as possible, considering the fact that this will still be a flying thing out in the world and not just in a cityscape. Like, it'll still be dealing with nature and the environment. So we want it to be able to tolerate that. We want this to be as aerodynamic as possible and weather friendly as possible. Which again is another good reason to have these like mesh bubbles to cover the propellers, because then it's sort of protecting it from the environment. And I am just realizing now that that is really far forward. Hang on. Nope, we're going to do that. That way, that way. There you go. Now it looks like a little alien bird that's like trying to flap its wings. Yeah, little alien bird flapping its wings, flying through a city. Or a fish with really big fins, like my initial idea. And let's get this tail, which will sort of do that, and not necessarily the initial idea. So we'll have it go into that shape. Make it more of a cup shape rather than the initial, no, more tail shape. More tail fin shape. There you go. Be more tail fin shaped. We're getting that fish shape back, because I like that idea. So it's kind of gonna look like that. Yeah, we're dealing with a silhouette sort of like this, which I'm totally cool with. So I'm actually really digging that. But then it's a matter of, again, light source. Unless we have like different just like panels all around it, like different solar panels on it, could have like maybe some panels like in the front here, like a panel here, here, and then like one like in the back here too. Then underneath would be like obviously where you would get to like these side panels would be how you get to like the components. So there'd be like some like spots over here that open up. So that'd be how they get to like everything inside. Okay, let's clean this up a bit. And I decided, instead of that one little rudder flap in the back, I'm gonna add those little two like fin cat ear kind of things, like these things. But we're moving them down here. So then those can like rotate. And that can control, or at least help control, the direction these filters move. So let's get to cleaning this up. And let's see if we can actually make something decent out of this. So let's initiate the time lapse. So this is basically what we're working with. This beautiful thing is what we're working with. As someone who does not engineer or build anything, I'm not 100% sure if this would necessarily actually work. Let's be real here. The whole point is to inspire with this series. So let's recap. These propellers would rotate to help with direction. These would also help steer. Let's call them fins, because again, we're sticking with the fish thing. These would be the air filters. And these would be the propellers. And then this would be like some sort of maybe solar panel? I don't know. But for now, let's say like a solar panel. And then these would be the plates to get into the inner workings of the machine. So this is our flying air filter. I am personally proud of it. I am happy to see how it has evolved from the initial concept. Granted, it didn't necessarily update to modern technology, as I initially said it would. But we made something that could possibly exist. So now, imagine, if you will, these things, text and all right now. Imagine these things. Just like a ton of these things. Like, maybe like 4 or 5 in a group. Give me a sec. You'll see where I'm going with this. Okay, one like all the way back here. Let's see if I can get this to work, because I have never used the background features on this. Imagine, if you will, like a school of these flying around these cities, acting as constant air filters, cleaning the air within these cities and these areas with high air pollution. And they're still within city limits, not in like public airspace, so it's not interfering with like planes and all of that. And it's high enough that it's not interfering with actual traffic and like people walking around the cities. And they're just flying around cleaning the air as they go because it's like an automatic filter. There's no like physical filter in it because it's one of those weird, like, I'm gonna call them bubble wand air filters because that's what they look like to me. But imagine these flying in groups of maybe like 5, 6, maybe even 4, just flying around in just programmed routes. And maybe they have like charging stations that they start at. I don't know. But imagine these just like flying around, cleaning the air. This is what I mean by designing the future. Doesn't matter if you can build things or not. Once you get that thought out there and you share it on a platform like this, maybe it can inspire someone. And that's what I hope to do with the series. As silly as the process may seem, and as weird as it gets sometimes, you do get to a final product. Even if it's not pretty, it's an idea, it's a concept. And hopefully, one day, maybe it could be real. And that's up to you. That's up to all of you out there, all of you makers and creators and artists, no matter how big or small you are, whether you build, design, engineer, you can make a difference. And that's what I hope to inspire you to do with this series. To inspire you to create things that can help the world out there. So get out there, create, make something like this, or heck, maybe even try to make this. I would love to see this be a thing. And who knows? Maybe one day it will be. So get out there, get creating, get making, design the future, and design it with me. So I'm Christina D. And this has been Designing the Future, episode 1. Oh yeah, and typical YouTube stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Tell me what you think of this series in the comments below. And yeah, I'm back. This is God's United 2.0, Phase 2, to rebooting this channel and bringing it back. So, yeah. Don't forget to do all that. Dare to be dorky and get out there and make. God's United 2, signing out.